Within the rock and metal music space, I generally experience an allure effect with anything that expresses a darker, more foreboding, ominous tone. And the setting darkness on titling evokes that directly. I hope the piece follows in spirit. I know it will at least succeed on proficiency. SIRENIA at this point, they have not disappointed me yet. And the evolution of 1977 is quite beautiful, especially following considerations of the last track I consulted with you, Nomadic. I thought that was quite strong in our entrance into the remainder of the album. I did promise you at some point earlier we would be returning to 1977 eventually, and that was my intention, to take this experience with you, right? I love sharing in that with music that it can elicit a collaborative effect, not just in enjoying your music individually. For me, music is a revered art form. It's been for a number of years, and bringing it onto the channel and it just in any focus has been a long-time aspiration. I'm finally making good on that over the last couple of years. And it's been a wonderful journey. And to the credit of the first impression and fellowship model of what I've taken here in large fashion, I can't get enough of it. I love enjoying music with you, or just good art, generally. And you might yourself not be necessarily a metal fan, but you're open to just finding such exquisite creations in the art world. Music is that. At this point, there's not been one artist or one song that I've not liked spotlighting, and SIRENIA certainly fits in that regard, and they've been a pleasure to entertain and showcase on this channel. I feel quite honored to be, in some part, maybe, hoping to position others who are approaching on a first-name basis at the standpoint of where I was, a couple months ago. I had only heard the name SIRENIA. I had yet to entertain them, but ever since, I've loved the experience of being immersed in their art and their creativity. They truly are such high-quality talents in the European rock and metal scene. And maybe you've never ventured yourself down that path. Let SIRENIA be the first step that precedes you in on a more subtle appearance, but once you set foot, you won't want to leave, and there's a spiral effect that takes place. I'm quite addicted myself, but perhaps take the journey with me through the remainder of 1977. I am delivering on my promise to all of you SIRENIA fans. I did say this publicly, though I didn't tell you how extensively. That was always my intention. And I welcome you from whatever standpoint you come from, whether you are a longtime fan of theirs or a fresh presence, where I was. Let's enjoy this album together, and see the evolution in particular of the setting darkness, and if it matches my suspicion on a track of a darker presence, I'd love that. This album is taking a bit of a, divergent effect of sorts, in tone specifically. Well, coming off of maybe a selection of the works I consulted off of Riddles, Wounds, and Revelations, the previous album to this. That one also a bit of a pop rock flair, but this is much softer in presence. No choir, as is particular to any of their older pieces. That's a bit different, but there's some real fresh attempts at new executions being tried here, maybe enhancing SIRENIA's reach. And I'm really curious again to see more, because I think the first 4 tracks have been quite sufficient on delivery with a new voice to them. Let's see what effect the setting darkness establishes for itself together. Entertaining SIRENIA, another track, my first ever SIRENIA album in full. I'm enjoying it with all of you. Been looking forward to the experience. Let's continue it. I'm going to go ahead and cue up the new piece, and as per usual, maybe you're not familiarized to my content, and that's the first introduction to you within the music space. I provide the lyrics directly in the video feed if you want to read along the storytelling of the piece. That will be an available resource to you that will, in fact, follow the track as it proceeds as we entertain it together. I'm going to go ahead and cue that up, though. Let's be introduced to our, at this point, 5th work. Yes, off of 1977. I love the softer openers that the album is expressing generally. I like the mood of this. There's that metal background. Again, there's it's weird for no choir presence. In the music orchestration, it kind of has this lightness. It really does sound like a vocal presence, though. Beautiful choices. Little lighter than my expectations, humored, but it has the tragic tone that matches the title. I love Emmanuel. I can't get enough of her. Her voice is just transfixing. I love when you can hear her French accent in her rave. This energy matching the vocal pacing to the piano. It's a good effect. Again, each track at this point has had that dominant pop rock flair, but they're all specific in their own way. That's a good departure on the disguise word. That's sitting with me. How her voice kind of rises up on that final syllable is really interesting. Independent choices, but good ones. See, like I said, again, there's that choir illusion. The percussion emerging to match him with the synth application is really interesting. I like how it's keeping up the build here. I get why they tiled it this way. It's an interesting idea. Quite contemporary and realistic. Traditional in presence and choice, but divergent to their own credits. Each piece thus far in the original side of SIRENIA's works on this album has featured this instrumental break. That's a mainstay element. Even that inclined snare towards the end, it kind of trails off. Especially it's that transitional element. And with this piece, that's intentionally direct, I think. We still have 20 seconds to go. The last track kind of cut off at the ending. This is less immediate. More stretched. And again, with that choir illusion. Speaking in credit to early regard, again, I'll be fair on how I frame this, because again, I understand maybe some of you are approaching on a first-name basis. The connection point for me to discover SIRENIA was through Mortemia. Morten Veland being one of SIRENIA's members, that's his solo project slash collaborative effort of sorts. If you've listened to any projects off of either the Pandemic Pandemonium sessions or the currently unveiling the COVID Aftermath sessions, each has tracks that mimic that closure. That is very much a Mortemia thing. Like, I hear it in SIRENIA and I'm like, oh, it's an echo effect that I experience. That wrap up with the vocals matched with the keyboard and the strings as well, good effect. It's a beautiful closure work. I like how it trails off here. It is a bit different and separated from Nomadic. There's a fun mood to this piece. You know, again, you look at the title of The Setting Darkness and you think it's going to take on a darker flair, that it's going to get more aggressive or harsh. It has a dreariness and a tragedy that fits the nature of the title, especially on application and a read-through of the lyrics, which, as I said, is a particularly realistic theming of, you know, anybody who's maybe being, at least on the way that I look at it, an interruption of dream pursuance, right, amidst life. I mean, there might be a bit like a hopeful side and of course an implication, but it's not as direct or specified here. It's more of navigating that tragedy, but even then there's kind of a hopeful feeling that might emerge. I love the presentation of what I'm reading here. Again, on SIRENIA's credits, they articulate deeply inspirational and introspective themes. There's such creative expression that is a bit independent, so where you might have a theme that is, maybe to the credit of how some would regard it, cliche in appearance to other art declarations and offerings and publications, the way they navigate the journey through the emotional side is independent and deeply classy. I mean, again, I love how sophisticated this is, and it is directly tied to SIRENIA's style of articulation. That's definitive when I read the lyrics. There's an independent style that I've come to recognize with their works. On track navigation, I love the keyboard interludes to the verses, especially between that effect on the bridge that takes place, or between the last chorus and the bridge on the instrumental side. They're subtle choices. They're softer. This track is a much lighter mood than I predicted, but I love the rhythm of it. It's different, especially with that keyboard pattern. It's kind of, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but it kind of comes across as establishing a bit of a humorous mood. There's a good mixture of tone here that, again, puts this track in a rather unique positioning, where it's not too dreary, and again, it has that hopeful background and effect that might manifest. It just demonstrates this fascinating procession effect in structuring. On independent choices, I love the keyboard presence. I really do. Especially as that is such a central element to the song's evolution. But on that rhythm, though, that fun lightness, the staccato notes, married to Emmanuel's beautiful voice, as always, who I can't get enough of course, as many of you know. She's a favorite now at this point. Great matchup on behalf of the vocal structure and the musical elements. And there are, like I said, with this album in full, from what we've entertained, it might take a bit of a departure route from some of the other works that I've humored with SIRENIA, right? It's not as harsh. It may not be as orchestral and grand. There are those effects. They're subtler, though. For going for more of an established punk rock flair, mixed with the metal foundation. It's quite interesting how this work is manifested, and again, it's rather independent. And, music is a very subjective experience. SIRENIA plays around a bit from my experience in terms of tone, but this is taking an independent reach. You might, have a different perspective than myself. Like I said, music, as all art is generally, it is up to the individual audience member to discover how a artistic work best matches to preferred favoritism. I could see a bit of a mixture of opinion on direction, but all bands generally try out fresh voyages from time to time. SIRENIA is just the latest one. I find this experimentation quite interesting, because there is an effect of SIRENIA that is central to this album. You hear it, it's distinctive, but it's much softer for going for a more unique voice. But it doesn't lose, again, that consistency effect. It's still there. It's just like a split around in a 50-50. I like the setting darkness. It does diverge from my expectations, but in a unique manner. One that I'd be absolutely interested in humoring again on a repeat list, and I'm sure many of you will be too as well. And I'd love to hear your perspective down below. Whatever perspective, or whatever angle you take, again, as I've said many times, I hope that there is a diverse audience and approach, whether you are a longtime SIRENIA fan or on a first impression basis with them. What did you think of the setting darkness? Feel free to disclose that down below if you wish, and we can see where our opinions align or diverge. I think it's a fun work. I like the structure of it. I love the blending on behalf of, again, like I said, the instrumental and vocal balance, the elements. It's perfect. I love the navigation on behalf of these different types of themes. They're particularly realistic, but beautifully eloquent in their expression. I just admire the subtlety in the SIRENIA experience. It's much more nuanced to these pieces. It's much more specific and direct. But it's not lost at all. There is a unique artifice that takes perhaps center stage, but yet its foundation is still mainstream SIRENIA. And for the faithful, like myself, I do think this, on those grounds, 1977 really has an appeal. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.